Hey, good morning, LinkedIn community. I want to come back to you today with yet another video about POTS line replacement. We've talked about what it means that the FCC has deregulated the support from your traditional POTS providers in offering you new lines, maintaining your pricing, or just turning your lines off. Now let's start diving into some of the application-specific POTS line replacement opportunities. So today we are specifically going to be talking about advanced E911 compliance for life safety lines. These are lines that are connected to elevators, to fire panels, to intrusion panels, to pull phones, emergency phones, blue light beacons, anything that is responsible for connecting an apparatus that supervises, monitors, or protects human life falls into this category. And several regulatory code bodies are quite clear. You have to meet the advanced E911 compliancy checkbox. So let's explain what advanced E911 in POTS replacement constitutes. First and foremost, this is our baseline. Your replacement solution must be able to provide a specific address-based dispatch location when an inbound call is made. That means when your elevator call panel is punched, it has to call the appropriate PSAP, the E911 center, and it has to give the specific address that call is coming from. So for example, here at RCN, if we had an elevator, I push that button, that call has to report in 200 Jennings Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917. So that's the baseline fundamental. Everything has to have location-based, primary dispatch address-based reporting capabilities into E911. Secondly, and this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. First and foremost, the solution has to be compliant with Kari's law. What is Kari's law? Kari's law was passed a couple of years ago, and it states simply this. First and foremost, your E911 solution, your elevator panel, your fire panel, has to be able to call 911 without dialing a prefix or having to punch a prefix before it. So for example, pound 911 before the call can be successfully made, or star 911 or 911. Can't have that. It's not going to work. You're not going to pass advanced E911 code. So secondly, according to Kari's law, an alert must go out to on-site personnel that an emergency call has been placed. So for example, here at RCN, that elevator gets punched. It has to be able to alert our ownership, for example, that an E911 has been placed. This can be an email, this can be SMS, or some other alerting mechanism, but that is a requirement to be compatible with Kari's law. So here's the final part of advanced E911 requirements, BAUM's Act. So BAUM's Act, in order to be compliant with this law, two things have to be true. First and foremost, we have to remit that primary dispatch address like we talked about earlier foundationally. But second, and very importantly, you have to give specific identifiers as to where in the facility that E911 call is coming from. So for example, here at RCN, if we had two elevators, I would have to report in 200 Jennings Avenue, but also I would have to indicate that it's elevator 1. You can get even more specific than that. You can say elevator 1 west wing, or let's say it's room based. I was doing an E911 call from a specific room. Then I could say it is room 200 second floor, so on and so forth. That specific based location information within the primary facility has to be remitted to E911 centers to be compliant with BAUM's Act. So again, it is BAUM's Act, it is Kari's law as well, and then finally you have to report that primary service address for the location the emergency is occurring at. All three of these things combine to give your POTS replacement solution the big red check mark on Advanced E911 compliance. So the only thing left to do is to educate this audience on the two different categories of solutions out there, at least in the wireless POTS replacement space. And that would be voice over LTE, or VoLTE for short, versus voice over IP over LTE. Voice over LTE is a cellular gateway solution that takes a SIM card that has both data and voice. This is the same SIM card you would put into your cell phone. What happens on these devices is that the E911 calling is decided at the carrier's tower level. It is not specifically configurable to call out to the designated PSAP for that county, that city, whatever it might be. And so it can also represent a primary service address that SIM is attached to, but in the cases of many businesses, you might have it attached to your primary HQ in one state, but you might have it deployed in another state. Or with the government, you might have it attached to your procurement office's address, but the address is one of the schools or city hall or a rec center. And so there's a conflict in the primary service address. So a couple more things. A lot of them can't actually give that real-time alerting to designated on-site personnel. And then they also can't remit that specific information on locations within the facility making that call. So from a BAUM's Act and a Kari's law and just E911 location-based reporting in general, they are not compliant. Now, there are some solutions out there, specifically those that are tied to a monitoring service, like an elevator monitoring service or a fire monitoring or security monitoring. The monitoring service will actually see where the call is coming in from. They will call the appropriate PSAP as part of their service. Those are compliant in the VoLTE world because the service attached. If it's just VoLTE POTS in a box, you just plug it in and you think it's plug and play, you're off the races, well, that's not going to check the box. Your fire marshal is going to have a big problem with this, and you are introducing liability to your POTS replacement. So the second piece, voice over IP over LTE, this uses traditional VoIP technology, voice over internet protocol, and it is highly configurable in any number of ways to be compliant with Advanced E911. So for each VoIP line, SIP line that gets provisioned for your applications, your elevators, your fires, not only do you have to provision the primary service address for E911 baseline compliancy's sake, but also you can send alerts in the form of SMS or text messages to those designated personnel. You can dial without having to hit a prefix like 9 or star or pound when you're calling out to 911. Even better for some applications, elevator call panels specifically, there is no auto dial feature. When you press the button, the phone just comes off the hook, but then you need an auto dial mechanism on your voice profile to actually make that call to 911. Voice over IP can do that as well. And from a BAUM's Act perspective, it is providing that highly specific location-based information, even down to latitude and longitude, if so desired by the customer. So it's an extremely compliant Advanced E911 solution. This is the way to go. Remember, with VoLTE, it's only if there's a monitoring service attached. If it doesn't, don't pass go, don't collect $200. The second one, voice over IP over LTE, work with your provider to make sure all these things are true when they're replacing your POTS lines, because they can be true through voice over IP over LTE. And so the last thing I will say is that a lot of those VoLTE solutions do not need additional compliances behind NFPA 72 for fire alarms, ASME A17.1 for elevator calling boxes, UL listing specific to security intrusion detection, and then finally for governments, what GSA EIS department has specifically guided governments to do in their POTS replacement. So again, voice over IP over LTE broadly checks all these boxes, or at least is capable of checking these boxes. And certainly there are more dimensions than just advanced E911 requirements under these code regulatory bodies: battery backup, redundant communication pathways, just to cite 2 examples. We can do a video at a later date for each of these. But I want to again caution everyone, do not think your standard voice over LTE POTS in a box is doing you any favors from a compliancy perspective, from a life safety perspective. And lastly, I will leave you with this. If the line covers life safety connectivity, it deserves to have connectivity without compromise. So again, RCN, we provide POTS-Link. POTS-Link is a voice over IP over LTE solution offering that connectivity without compromise, that advanced E911 compliance for your life safety lines. And we would absolutely love to consult with you on getting off old traditional copper POTS lines. Well, that is all I have for you today. If you made it this long, I really appreciate it. Please engage with me. If you think I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. We'll have a conversation about it. But I enjoy doing these, and hopefully you picked up something swell. Happy Friday, LinkedIn community.